what the hell?
Hey guys!
Oh, that was
We're
quick.
live. Yeah, it happens right away.
This is stressful.
Welcome to our first live video on Facebook. Compliments of Facebook.
Welcome. This is 0 to 100 with Natasha and Serena.
Yes.
Live.
Yes, live.
But I don't know why it's so, I guess, like, it's the newness of it. Because it's like, oh, this is the first time. So it's like, for me. But but it's really no different because we don't edit our stuff anyway. So it really is the same.
It's always live for us. It's always go.
Yeah,
go
you don't watch it as we're doing it.
Yeah.
But it is live because you're seeing the same thing as if you watched it as we were doing it.
But the pressure is on because like there is no option to like stop and restart because people are watching. Y'all better be watching out there. I want to see like the names come through. Mm-hmm. We can wait for people to check in.
We are.
No, we're gonna keep go with our conversation. People will join us as they come.
Yeah, girl. So today we want to talk about the Netflix documentary When They See Us. Oh, girl, the door open. I'm gonna go shut it because my hallway.
That's what happens on live. So as she was saying, we're going to talk about the Netflix documentary, or how do you call a series that's a documentary?
Well, see,
not a documentary, but like a biopic. What is it?
Is that not a biopic? That's how you say it? Biopic? Biopic? Biopicture?
Biopic.
Biographical Listen. Okay.
Anyways, we're going to talk about the series.
It seemed like a series of like mini movies though, because it was only 4 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, I watched them all together, but I think it was 4 of them, but each one was like an hour and a half long or something.
Yeah.
So it was like it was like movies, but it was a movie series, documentary series, docu-series. I don't know.
So based on, if you haven't seen it, it's based on the true story or true events that happened in 1980.
Part 5.
Yeah, in 1989. I heard someone say like they've been given that name, but it's kind of like it's still a little bit negative because it's like the Central Park 5, and it's like they've become synonymous with that name, but they really are their own individual people, their own story. They have their own story to tell, which I think Ava DuVernay.
So we tried to say
another
it right.
thing that we're trying to figure out.
I don't know her. No one has ever introduced me to her. Said, hey, meet Ava DuVernay. But so I be trying to get pronunciations of people's names right, even though I still butcher it sometimes. But the effort is there, so I need an A for effort.
A for effort. And I give her
but
an A
online
for
it
effort.
said Ava DuVernay.
DuVernay. I like that. It kind of rolls off the tongue. DuVernay. Anyway, she did an amazing job telling the story of those 5 individuals, like their individual stories, the stories as a whole, what they went through. She said, I watched some interviews with her, and she talked about how she really wanted to tell the story of what happened to them during the trial, and then what happened when they went to jail or prison, and then what happened afterwards, and how life was very hard as far as like, you know, being a convicted felon on living in the real world. She did that, and
actually, that's interesting because that's exactly how I saw it, and I'll show you after. But like when I started watching it, so when I got maybe like 20 minutes into the first episode, I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch this and I'm gonna post about it. So naturally, you know, like I jotted down little notes, and then I couldn't stop, so I just kept going. And then I was like, okay, this is how I'm gonna organize this, and I did before trial, like the incident, during the trial, and then afterwards. And that's really how the story is told, and it's done so well. It's not hard transitions. It transitions so well from each of the victims in this situation. It goes from each of them so seamlessly, and then it overlaps at some point. She did a really good job. Everyone involved did a really, really good job on that. Applause for her. And then shout out to Kevin Richardson, Raymond Santana, Antron McCray, Yusuf Salam, and Corey Wise. Yeah,
I just read an article where they said Corey Wise actually donated $190,000 to the Innocent Project, I think. Yeah. I forget what school it's at, but
they have them everywhere. So
he really. I think he visited this one school, and he really wanted to donate to that one in particular. So that's awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that I was surprised by so before we decided to do a podcast episode on this, I posted because I watched it. So last Sunday, it came out like the 20-something, like 28th or 29th or something. And then that following Sunday, I watched it. And then Monday came, and I'm like, did other people not see it? Like, I was like, why isn't anybody talking about it? But you and a couple other people were like, girl, you don't have the right friends because my timeline is blowing up. And I'm like, maybe I missed it, but then some people were really like, no, like no one is talking about it. Maybe they haven't seen it yet. Like they were kind of wondering the same thing. So I think the conversation has been very like saturated in some many friend communities or whatever, but I still haven't seen much. And like where are the memes? Like I don't. And part of me wondered, like, are people just just jaded and like numb and like just like
I don't know. I not only have I seen people in my social media world in my social media world talking about it, but it's been a lot of like, which one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk about this story was that when I watched it, not only was I just intrigued by the story and just it grabbed me, but it took a lot out of me emotional. Like I was sitting there crying during watching it, and then everybody that I saw on my Facebook feed was just like, I was crying. I was holding my baby. A lot of mothers mostly, and they were just saying, I just held my son. I just can't stop crying. I cried through the whole episode, and it took me literally after watching it took me a few days to even process what I had even seen and like how to even deal with, like, I've never watched something like that and felt that emotionally attached to it, and was just immediately, I felt like I had gone into a rabbit hole. So I was just trying to get more information. Like after I watched it, I wanted to research the story and research the people that were involved and just get more information about it. So I don't know, just for me, I saw a lot of interest into it, and it just, I don't know, I've never seen anything like that has grabbed me emotionally like that.
Me either, child. Me either.
We're recording and we're going live in 2 different.
I love this, y'all. I think this is so fun because you don't really know who's watching. I guess you can see it.
Demetrius is watching. But hey,
Booby?
No, he's gonna be mad that you call him Demetrius. Michi.
That's gonna take some time. Oh, I could do Michi. Okay, I think I called him that a couple of times.
Somebody else is watching, but I can't see because Facebook is like blocking it. But hey,
yeah. And then another thing with this live thing is we were trying to figure out how to make me an admin so then we could see like the little comments on my phone and then record on her phone. I'm just not tech savvy. You know what? We should just like win the lottery and then we could just solve
more than here. Just our tech problems here on this show. Winning the lottery, like, sure. I have to start playing first, though.
Think about.
I don't play the
lottery.
I
never play, but then I get mad when I don't win. Yeah. You got to play to win, right?
You do. You have to be in it to win it.
I think you don't got to.
All right, let's get.
I'm sorry. And that's why I'm drinking tea. I'm trying to like get my focus together. But
all right, so you want to just dive into the story?
Let's dive into the story. So let's do it like that then. Especially if that's how she designed it. Let's talk about like the incident leading up to it, because I went through it and I was just like question after question after question.
Me too.
Kind of like hypothetical type, like rhetorical. Like I don't really care about the answer. It was just more so like wanting people's opinions about it.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that I had, so the incident, for those of you that haven't watched it but that are still, watching, listening to us talk about it, there was a rape and beating of a woman in Central Park. So that's where the Central Park aspect of the name of this whole ordeal comes from. And they were also, did it have a name what they were doing? They were doing like this park run thing or whatever, where it's just a bunch of like young black kids. So they were all 14, 15, 16, maybe 17 years old, like young teenagers. They all just kind of meet up at the park and just like hang out.
Yeah.
So they're all doing that, but this is happening near where they are, but not in the exact same location.
Yeah.
So then the police pull up. At that time in New York, kids had a curfew. So if you were 16 or younger, you had to be inside, I think, by 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So they all, break out and they all run. So the police catch a couple of them. Most of them get away. Well, I don't want to say most, but, of the 5 that were at the core of this, I think 2 of them were caught and 3 weren't or something. I'm trying to remember exactly who got arrested.
I think
because we know Antron got caught because the police officer busted his eye with his helmet.
No, that wasn't Antron. He wasn't there. Antron was the one actually they went and picked up from his home.
You're right. That was Kevin. The 14-year-old.
The 14-year-old. Yeah. I think he, honestly, I want to say him and maybe Raymond.
I know Raymond did because they were like, you weren't worried about where your son was.
Yusuf was not. Because the other 3 were not picked up that night.
Yeah, so 2 were picked up, 3 weren't. They were picked up later. Because Corey and Yusuf were picked up together. Corey wasn't even in the midst.
No.
He wasn't on they had a list of names of people that they wanted, and Corey just went with Yusuf because Yusuf was younger and Yusuf's mom was so strict. So he was like, if I don't go with you, your mom's going to kill me anyway.
One thing I want to mention, so some people who may be watching who may not be, I guess, familiar with, who may have never worked with kids, period, or be familiar with, I guess, minorities in their interaction with police. Because people may say, like, if they were in the park and they weren't doing, I mean, they were being rowdy.
That was one of my questions.
Yeah.
I want to know, like, how many people feel like they shouldn't have run if they didn't do anything wrong. Right. That's what you were going to say, right? Yep.
But a lot of people don't understand, like,
first, do you think that that's what people are thinking?
Yeah. Some people who may not be familiar with how minority, and not even just minority children in general. I don't know how other children interact with police, but I think minority children in general are taught to
authority.
fear.
It's it's authority.
That's true. They would have run if it was their teacher. Or a principal or something. They would have just started running.
Exactly. And that was like one of the first questions I had, and I was like, I can hear people now. Well, if they didn't do anything wrong, then what they running for? And that's why I stated it the way that I did, because they had a curfew. So they were doing something wrong, but they weren't beating or raping anyone.
Well, pause. So there were just more than those 5 boys in the park. There were a group of kids. It looked like from the movie, I'm not sure.
20-30.
Right. And so one of my questions I had also was, because there were some kids that were being a little rowdy with people. They weren't being violent. I don't think violent.
They were fighting some guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So they were being rowdy, but I want to know, how did the police narrow 30, 40 kids down to 5?
I didn't understand that either, and I felt like that was something I wanted to dig, because if you remember the lady, and I won't even dignify her with giving her a name, but the prosecutor lady, when she was like, or no, it was the detective, and she was like, basically, if anyone meets this description, pick them up. So what did they have a list of names for? I didn't understand the list of names until they got to Corey. And they said, nope, not on the list.
I'm wondering, from the one scene where they questioned one random boy that was being held, and he just mentioned the name Antron McCray, and he said, where does he live? And then that's how they got his name. But I'm wondering if, just like when they were questioning random people, some people just wouldn't give any information, and then the only names that came up were those 5, and they were just like, let's just go with that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, really, it was the 4, because Corey wasn't even on the list.
Yeah.
And remember, they just held him, and then they were like, all right, well, we need somebody to kind of tie this all together, so it has to be him.
Yeah. They only showed in the series where Diamond wants to be a part of the...
You see? She always does that. She always tries to creep in.
So I'm just wondering if maybe those were the names that came up. They only showed where one person gave Antron McCray's name, so I don't know. But
yeah, okay, so that was the first question that I had. So I'm glad that and that's why I got so excited. So I'm like, yeah, because I can hear people now, and they feel like, and first of all, like you said, it's not just, minorities or black kids and how they react to police. It's stronger in that sense. So that is a valid point. But I think it's children in general. Like, if a teacher's coming or your mom's coming and you're doing something you don't have any business in your room, what do? Hide it and try to
cover it up,
try to escape the trouble.
Yeah,
and I think that's normal. Now, if it wasn't curfew, or if it was the middle of the day, I'm not sure that they would have run. Those seemed like really innocent, like decent kids. But I think that it was because they weren't supposed to be at the park, especially which one was it? Not Kevin, or was it Kevin? Kevin had the sick mom, right?
Yeah.
So remember, he kind of snuck out, and he kind of covered his mom up, and then just kind of snuck out the house to go hang out with his friends. And this is a time when kids were roaming. Now, you would be like, what was he doing out there anyway? This was happening. And that's why there was a curfew, because kids were allowed to just be out and about. So I don't think that's crazy. And if you think that's crazy, then that's the same thing as victim shaming and slut shaming. So you need to be ashamed of yourself, because don't pass the blame.
Yeah.
So they're at the park. They go every which way. Then they... fast forward, and then they get arrested. Now they're at the police department.
They're at the police department. So they've picked up the other 3 as well, based on, I guess, names on a list, and they're at the police department. So here's I think where it goes the wrong way, because a lot of people convicted them based on what they said when they were interrogated, and now we're so much more educated about interrogation. I think we still have a long way to go, but I know Netflix released it, confession tapes, and we all saw Stephen Avery's case, Making a Murder, and saw how people can confess to things that they did not do and just make up a complete story. But in those hours when they are held in custody and they are in the interrogation room is really what everything happens there that brings us to where we are with the story, like what happened to them after. And so I wanted to like just throw it to you because since you're in the legal field, I want to talk a little bit about like the interrogation and like what happened behind those doors. Most of them, there were no parents present. Parents weren't notified. If they were, I think Raymond said his grandmother was there. She didn't speak English and they kept taking her in and out of the room. Kevin's mom was sick, so she was there, but then had to go get her medicine. So they used that opportunity to jump on him. He's 14 years old. Yusuf's mom was never notified. I think she finds out hours later, and that you see in the movie where she comes up. And then Corey Wise, I mean, of course, nobody even knows he's there. He wasn't on the list. I think his mom had no idea where he was. So that was just a major opportunity.
I'm sure it's changed somewhat now with regard to questioning minors. In this sense, or at this time, minors for this purpose were under 16. So if they were 16, which Corey Wise was, he was considered an adult in the eyes of the law, which means they didn't even have to consult with his parents. They could question him. He could make all his decisions for himself. And then when he was convicted, he went directly to adult prison. He didn't go to juvie like the other 4 kids. He went to adult male prison. He went to Rikers Island. That, like, I get like goosebumps just even thinking about that. I
also immediately think about Khalif Browder, who that actually also happened to him. A 16-year-old has no business being in an adult prison, much less like Rikers Island, which I heard that they are actually going to be closed. They're working to close by 2026. They'll be closed, which is too long for me, but just because it's so corrupt there.
Yeah, and it's not unique. I mean, Rikers Island is one of the ones that's not so secretive, but Prison Reform is an upcoming episode, and that's probably going to be like a 3-hour episode, because, child. Okay, but back to that. So in this case... I'm
just going to move this. Go ahead.
Okay, so in this case, they were questioning minors. So the parents were the ones that basically had to consent or, allow for the police to talk to them, for them to require themselves to be present. But when Kevin's mom, who was sick, and she said, "I'm going to get my medicine. I don't feel well." The detective said, "It must be snowing." And everyone's like, "What does that mean?" He said, "Because this is Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, this is a present," because she voluntarily left. So that means that we could still question her son. So, I mean, before Miranda warnings, people or the police and detectives would just come in and, just... What a lot of people don't understand is that the police can lie. They can say, well, your buddy over there, he's already said that you did A, B, C, D, so you better go ahead and tell the truth. And not only is that persuasive to an adult, and they may look, especially someone who is familiar with how the system works against African-American male before any other, like, group, African-American men, they may look at it and know that they're innocent, but say, I could do this and get probation, or I could do this and, get 2 years, but I know I'm not going to beat the system, because we never do.
Yeah.
And you might confess to something that you didn't do because you think, like, this is the best case scenario, the best option for me, which,
as we saw with
Antron
McCray, when they bring his dad in and they use a prior...
We gotta wait for that one, because that one, that part
but
right there,
that was the sentiment there. He was like, "We're not gonna beat this, so just do this.
We gonna save him." We coming back to Antron McCray's father, but in this sense, because someone else messaged me and they were like, "But they lied to them," and they can. And I mean, you see it in other police shows, and they'll lie and they can.
Yes.
So you have to be so confident in your truth, your innocence, your rights. Even though the system may not work for you, you have to be strong and confident in that. And these little boys were. So when they had opportunities to get lesser sentences or parole early or whatever, they were like, well, if it requires me to say that I did something I didn't do, like, why would I do that? I've been holding out, 5 years, 6 years, whatever. I'm not doing it. So, like, kudos to them, because that's tough. Like, in those situations, you think, like, wow, what would I do? And then I have to take it even back and say, before I understood how the criminal justice system works, what the criminal rules of procedure actually allow and disallow, would I be able to do that? Like, what would I have done? And it's really, really difficult for me to say at this point. But when I look at their behaviors, I don't say, like, who would do that? I think that their behavior was completely consistent with what's real. Mm-hmm. And I think that the police know that, and that's why they employ those tactics to get those results from people that are, innocent, and they find themselves in a situation where they confess. But what frustrates me in that situation, because I blame the jury in this, and I guarantee you the jurors have carried a huge burden and a lot of guilt with them, and they should. Yeah. Because I don't care what the confessional tape looked like, even if we never saw the tape and we're like, well, maybe in real life it was more convincing and it wasn't so obvious that they were lying. I don't care. There is no reason why these boys can sit there. These are educated boys. Mm-hmm. One, was like first chair, playing instruments. The other one skipped like the grade or two. Yeah. These are educated boys. I guarantee you they can read and write. Why were they dictating anything to y'all? Right. Why didn't they write down what happened? I have a problem with that. And then, I don't know. I have my own issues with how the trial played out, but I think that the main attorney in the case, I think he did a good job. I don't think that those confessional tapes were convincing. I don't. Yeah. And I think that the lack of DNA, the lack of...
Do you think, though, that people knew enough about DNA in 1989?
They know that they didn't find any fingerprints.
But I just feel like...
They know they didn't find any fingerprints. That's true. Because this was another question. We could segue into it. I want to end the whole thing about the legal aspect and what is allowed and what isn't allowed. What is absolutely allowed is for you to ask for an attorney. That is always your best case scenario. I saw somebody say, like, and never, you need to educate your child and tell your child that I do not care. Perfect example. My little brother has a lead foot like me. So he used to get pulled over by the cops a lot. And he had a run-in with a cop, and he was saying, like, it was obvious that he was, just treating me like that, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, listen, these cops are killing y'all every day, okay? So I get that you're mad. He's Scorpio like me, so, he wants to, speak up and speak for what's right and what's wrong. I told him, I said, let me fight your battles for you, but with you here. So you do whatever you need to do. You sign whatever you need to sign. Take that ticket and bring it to me, and I'll fix it. If the cop did something wrong, I'll handle it. Mm-hmm. I will go speak to that cop and his supervisor and his supervisor if I need to. But you don't fight with no police officer, because I'm not going to be here advocating and fighting. You'll fight with you not here. Right. And he would do that. So he would get pulled over, and he would have me on the phone, and he'd be like, you hear how this cop is talking to me? And I'd be like, don't, like, keep me on the phone, but I'm on my way. Jump in my car, and I'm going to go there. So he knew, because I told him that you call me to let me fight this battle for you. I went to school and I spent a lot of money, still paying for it, to learn certain things that I didn't know before I went to school. Other attorneys that maybe your attorney, if you don't have an attorney, I'll be your attorney. But call us in the beginning of it. So when a police officer comes to your house and says, hey, I wanted to ask you a question about this, you say, okay, hold on. Call your attorney. The lit lawyer, the police here. I have no idea. Yeah, I have no you can call me. Yeah. I have no idea what's going on, and blah, 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 but the police are here.
Yeah. I heard nothing good could ever come out of speaking in an interrogation room, like speaking to the police without a lawyer. Nothing good.
And sometimes it's not, because some people will be like, well, if you just cooperate. No, not when the person that you're trying to cooperate with has your worst interest in mind. Yeah. They could take one phrase, one thing you say, and flip it and manipulate it, and then it could just really make a mess for us to try to clean up later, because that's when we get the calls, when you already done made a whole mess, and you're like, can you come clean this up for me? Yeah. Can you please call me so I can tell you how not to make the mess?
I think the public perception, though, is that if you're telling the truth always wins, but let's just say, truth always wins, except if you're in an interrogation room, because the only truth that matters is the truth that the police are, like, the story that they're trying to tell, and they want all the puzzle pieces to fit into their story, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, and the main attorney, I cannot think of his name right now, but he told the prosecutor, because she asked something, and he said, all I want you to do is just fight fair. Just a fair fight. That's all I ask. And she couldn't even do that.
She wouldn't do it.
There was some, they found semen in a sock. And
they tried to hide that.
She said it was inconclusive and that they didn't have any reading on it. He just, good lawyering, asked the ME, I think, or whoever I think it was a medical examiner, a question about it. And he said, yeah, it came back, and no, it wasn't a match for any of them. That's not inconclusive.
Yeah.
So she lied. So that's how it goes. So our justice system, any system is not perfect, okay? So ours has issues, but if you just employ the right assistance and you know what you're doing, you know how you're saying it, you know how you're presenting things, then you could just put yourself in a way better position than to get, just caught up in some mess that you shouldn't be a part of.
Exactly.
So that's my advice to end the whole, like, what's right, what's wrong. Every situation is going to be different. So even if I say this was right and that was wrong in this situation, your situation might be different. So don't even sit and try to apply those facts. Just call a lawyer. That's all you need to know. Just say, I want a lawyer. If they speak to you after you say that, then anything you say is inadmissible anyway. So as long as you say, I want a lawyer, okay? Even if it's something, if you are in any situation where you feel like you are wronged, whether it's criminal or something else, if you're at a business and someone does something and you think that it's wrong, call a lawyer. Don't guess at it and then try to figure it out later. Call a lawyer.
What if somebody doesn't know a lawyer? What if they're just like,
you call the Florida bar. First of all, if you're watching this, then you know me. So call me. And I don't listen. And I'm not the type of person that I will never sit up here and be like, oh, I do everything. I don't do everything. But one thing I do know is I have a lot of friends, and I know when to say that I can do that and I cannot do that. So if I don't know how to do it, I will match you with someone that is reputable and that will fight for you just as hard as I fight. I will fight for you.
So what were your thoughts when you saw some of the boys being represented by, like, the divorce attorney or, like, some guy who had just, I don't know, all of them seemed like they had never even dealt with that type of case or that type of trial, except for one guy. And then even then, like, that one guy, all the lawyers, they didn't even know the judge that they were going to be appearing in front of.
Was the most irky to me, and he was the one that had the background. He was the one that was kind of like, y'all need to consider taking a plea because let me tell you about this judge and da-da-da. So he was the one that had the background and knew the criminal arena that they were in, knew the judge personally, and was, like, encouraging them to take you had a 15-year-old Yusuf was like, why would we do that? We didn't do this. So my opinion on that is a lot of people will, because people will come to me after the fact and say, oh, I have this problem and this lawyer messed it up. And I'll be like, well, why you didn't come to me before? Because, see, people come to me for free advice, but when it's time for, an opportunity for me to make some money, then I didn't know you did that. It's just weird how people are. But whatever. So they'll come to me after the fact, and my whole thing is that you just need to that's why I say I'm not this kind of lawyer, I'm your lawyer, because let me match you up with somebody. Because what happens is some lawyers think that, oh, I could do that. And then they just don't know. And other lawyers are just there to just take your money.
That's scary.
Yeah. But in that case, I don't automatically say, like, oh, he's a family attorney, he has no business doing that, because I could have taken that case. And I think that it's admirable for them. They probably were doing it for little to no money.
Yeah.
So they were helping out. And I think it's more about the passion and drive than it is the experience. Because in law school, you take one class, maybe two, in family law. But you don't learn everything about it. You take, a couple classes in criminal justice or criminal defense or criminal procedure. It doesn't teach you everything. The thing about an attorney is that it's an ongoing learning experience. We're constantly in school. We learn how to research. We learn how to advocate. We learn how to think. But we don't learn everything that there is to learn about a particular area of law until we get out into the field, and then you become an expert in that certain field. So ask me anything about, toxic tort litigation. I can tell you all day, but that doesn't mean that I haven't done divorces, and that doesn't mean that I haven't handled a DUI case. It just doesn't mean that. So when I looked at that, I was like, wow, that's admirable, because they have to be terrified. This case has tons of publicity and a lot of pressure. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are kids that are up for not murder, but Yeah, she hadn't died, but it was
kidnapping, I think,
and she was in critical condition. So they
right.
kept saying,
so
like, if she dies, yeah, it's gonna be first degree murder and da 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 da. So this was intense, and I think that at least how it was portrayed in the movie, I don't think that any of them came off as like, oh, this about to boost my career. Like, I'm about to blow up.
They really wanted to help.
It seemed like it was, I'm the family's lawyer for this, and I handle this, so they came to me, and I'm gonna help them.
Yeah.
And there were so many of them that they did really work together, and they had one attorney that was like in the forefront. So I mean, if it was somebody involved, like if it was someone in my family, I absolutely am handling it, because I know that passion is going to make me stay up 2, 3, 4 days straight. And I'm going to learn everything I need to learn. I'm going to go get assistance from whoever I need to get assistance, because I'm vested. You know, I got a claim in this because I care about the person just more than a client, you know? And that's pretty much how I advocate anyway. So when I see another attorney going hard like that, that's what I automatically think that's their reason for doing it.
Do you think that they should have moved the case? Because I've seen in other cases where, like,
change of venue.
If it's getting so much publicity, there's no way to get an unbiased jury, and so they will change the venue. But so what do you think about, like, the fact that they just kept it? I don't know, like, who's...
I'm not sure that they didn't try. So I don't know enough about the actual history, about the ins and outs, but change of venue is not that easy. You have to prove a lie. You have to prove that it is impossible for me to get a fair trial because of A, B, C. Just the fact that it's in the media is not enough, because the jurors will come and they'll be like, oh, I haven't seen it. Or they'll say, like, yeah, I saw it, but that's not going to keep me from giving, listening to the evidence and giving a fair, rendering a fair verdict based upon the evidence.
Hi, Summer. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you seen it?
How you saw that? She's got good eyes.
Yeah. I have 20/20 vision.
Oh, I don't. Even with my contact lenses, I don't. So you handled that. Because it's a long thing right there. What'd that say?
He was talking about kids' instinct to run. He said, Demetrius, my nephew, he's 21. I'm not sure. Demetrius,
he's our same age, remember?
He said, he said, definitely, especially, I not only feel like it's instinct to run, but when I can't read the whole message. Let me get to it. Facebook, come on. All right. So Demetrius said, definitely, especially, I not only feel like it's instinct to run when you either doing something wrong or being out past curfew, or the environment kind of teaches you to run when cops are around. So he was just saying, just as a young man,
that was like a normal
instinct. That's a normal instinct.
And either way, I just feel like, so what if they reacted wrong in any aspect of this? Like, I just don't feel like it's appropriate for you to even make that a topic of discussion about, well, they shouldn't have done this, and if they would have done this, because we don't know what any of that changed. And I personally don't think that if they would have run, I think they just would have been granted access to this BS a lot sooner.
Right.
That's what I think. And I think that's like blaming a parent for the parent to, like, a victim at a mass school shooting or something. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you knew that school shootings were happening everywhere. Why would you send your child to school?
Right.
Like, I mean,
when
do we stop? Like,
yeah.
when does it stop? I just think it's inappropriate.
Yeah. So let's move on to
the trial.
So you said you don't see how any jury, you kind of blame the jury.
Yep.
So how did it end up the way that it ended up? How did we end up with, and then also I want to talk about Corey Wise, because I know we're skipping on a little bit, but in his case, we saw that he was found not guilty of the actual rape itself. I think of kidnapping, but they found him guilty of like a few other charges. And it's a little confusing when you watch a trial and you see where somebody has been, it seems like, well, if they did this, then obviously, how can you find them not guilty on this, but find them guilty on this?
Well, when a person commits a series of crimes, so in this case, there was assault, there was battery, there was the rape charge, there was a slew of, and then if you beat someone bad enough, it can be battery and it can be attempted murder. If you can prove that they tried to kill the person, then it's attempted murder. Or if you were so reckless where you knew that you'd beaten this person so bad that it was probable that they were going to die, then you might be able to prove that. But you can, the jury can say, well, I don't feel like that, they intended to that they were trying to kill the person. Like maybe it's like a bar fight. And they say, but, so there's elements to each crime. And let's say there's 4 elements. Then it's like a checklist. Like, okay, you prove that, you prove this, you prove this, you prove this, then it's guilty. But if you don't prove all the elements, then it's supposed to be not guilty.
Yeah.
So in that case, if they had 4 or 5 charges and the jury can take each of those charges, well, is tasked with the job of taking each of those charges and saying, yes, all of these elements were proven. No, all of these elements were not proven. But the burden in a criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
So in order for someone to be found not guilty, that just means that either you think that, like, you can bring up an alternative suspect, so someone else that it's more probable that this person did it, and if they say, no, I think he did it, then you have reasonable doubt that this person did it if you think that this other person did it. Or in this case, there's no DNA. So the frustration that I have with that is that these are 14, 15, 16-year-old boys, right? But they so sophisticated that they could beat and rape a woman.
That's what I'm thinking.
Not leave any semen. So some other random person left the semen. Who that? No semen, no fingerprints, no any kind of anything
no
from
blood
them
on
the victim.
Yeah.
And they said the victim didn't have anything on them. They had all their clothes. They didn't find any
bloody.
DNA.
The victim, they presented the shirt in court, and you're right. Like, how could the jury see that? They presented the shirt in court. She said her shirt was white, and the shirt was muddy and bloody.
Red. Yeah, it's gross. So I like that. To me, is enough to raise reasonable doubt. Like, a grown person wouldn't be that sophisticated to commit a crime in an open field like that. Not leave. I mean, there ain't a footprint that matches their shoe. There's nothing to tie them directly to the incident, the crime. And I was just frustrated because they made like it was about this jogger, and then when Trump got involved, it's about this jogger and finding and getting justice for her. But her name was Trisha. She had a name, but you barely heard her name because it was just a jogger. Because it wasn't about her. It wasn't about justice for her. It was about
I have another bone to pick with that too. Like I saw a few of we'll talk about it later, but I want to talk about the jogger also. Trisha Melee is what her name?
Yeah.
Melee, something like that.
So, but the issue with the trial is that I think that it was very unclear, and I don't think it should ever be clear what everyone's role is. So I think we have, especially lately, we have lost sight of what, and when the cops too, of what a cop's role is, of what a detective's role is, state attorney, judge, juror, what are their roles, and are they fulfilling their purpose? So when I apply for a job, there's a list of job requirements, right? So it's either, it's going to be a section that says like you have to have this experience or this training or this certification to do this job. And then when you do this job, these are the duties that you're expected to be able to do, and these are your responsibilities. And since when are police and detectives not here to protect and serve? They beat this little boy so bad his eye was all bust up, and then they asked him, well, what happened to your eye?
They blamed it on like
say what happened to him because he's so afraid of the person who is supposed to be protecting and serving him.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, it just really frustrated me that the prosecutor was so caught up with a win and just being right that she didn't. I mean, she didn't even care whether it must have, because I know they did it. And, well, that must have been, they must have been capable of dragging her a half a mile because they did it. So figure out how they did it. And it wasn't about figure it out. Yeah, just make it fit, make it work out. And a prosecutor, so me, I'm a civil litigator. So I don't have a duty to discover, something about a case. Let's say I'm suing, a major company, and I find a loophole, not saying like my client's lying, but something, that I discover like in their documents that they send me or something. I don't have to go back and tell them and say, hey, did you know? But when you're a prosecutor, you represent the victim, but you're representing the state for whom you are employed under. Your duty is to find present the case and find the truth. You are supposed to pursue the truth. It's not about, well, I had this many wins. Yeah, that's something to brag about when you pursued the truth in every case, but a prosecutor has a duty. If they find out something is not true, or they find out that, you know, evidence was, let's say they find out a police officer tampered with some evidence and that this person is probably not guilty, they have a duty to find the person that is and not pursue this case against the other person.
It's all about politics. It's all about money and all these things. I heard a saying somebody said the other day was just like, it's better to be like a rich white man that's guilty going into the justice system than to be poor and innocent. And, you know, then you slap on top of it that if you're a minority, because it's just, it won't work out for you. So, and then I love that Ava named the show or the series When They See Us, because we keep going back to the fact that these were 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. Mm-hmm. But we look nowadays and back then, when you're a minority and you're 14, 15, 16, you're not looked at as a 14, 15, 16-year-old boy or kid or anything like that. You're looked at as like a threat. They look at you as like an adult man. I just feel like the emotion is taken out of it. Like when I see a 14, 15-year-old, no matter what race, color they are, I see a 14, 15-year-old. I'm like, that's a baby. That's a child.
Yes, that's what I kept saying the whole time.
And when they just never treated those kids, not that you should, you know, not that like if a kid does something violent or dangerous, you should address that. But they never looked at them that way. They never took in consideration that there were 14, 15-year-old babies that were sitting with policemen in a closed room. Like Raymond Santana did an interview and he talked about the fact that he was just like, first of all, they split us up as soon as we got to the policing. So we never, Yusuf said, I never saw Corey Wise again until he got out of Rikers. He said, I never saw him again until he got out of Rikers.
Like, where is he?
And so they were like, and they split us up and they kept saying, you know, they were seasoned. These were seasoned police officers. They were dealing with seasoned professionals. And they were babies there. They were kids. And so I don't know. Just like that was the perfect title, When They See Us, because it just summed up like everything. The fact that you have this story of these babies that were just mishandled like that. But I want to move on to, well, we kind of skipped around, but we skipped the interrogation, or we didn't skip, but we moved on from the interrogation scene. But I do want to talk about Antron McCray. Because when you saw him in the story, he was the one where his dad kind of encouraged him to go along with what the police said in the interrogation room. He said, just say what these people want you to say. Go along with it, because they used a prior felony conviction for him to kind of scare him into saying, you know, we're going to mess up your job, or whatever it was they told him. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. I saw, like I said, I went down a rabbit hole after watching this series, and I started like researching the real people and watching interviews and trying to get more information. And I saw an interview with Antron where he is still very, I mean, a lot of them, of course, they're angry about what happened to them, but he specifically is still like he said he's still struggling with everything. He's very angry, and he said his mom recently passed away. Her dying wish was for him to let all the hatred in his heart go for the people, like his father and the prosecutors and everybody who played a role in him ending in what happened. And so he said, I haven't reconciled with my dad. He was like, I don't feel I should. I don't care. I hate him. And he said also about the people who put them behind bars. He said, I hate them. I have hatred in my heart for them. I wish death upon them. I have nothing but hate for them in my heart. He said, I'm struggling with it. My mom asked me to forgive them and to let it go. But yeah, Diamond feels the same way. She's like, but no, you could see it on his face. Like he was shaking a little bit when he said it. He's really struggling with it. He has a lot of hatred in his heart. And he said, my dad ruined my life. He was just like, he blamed, everybody who had a part to do with it. He,
is mad at him.
Yeah, rightfully so. And he said, my brothers are doing a little bit better. They don't have the same feelings as I do. But he said, I have hatred in my heart. And that's where I am. And, it's hard. It's hard not to sympathize with him and be like, yes. But then also it's like, you can see where it's affecting him as a person, and he's not able to move on from that. But I just want to talk a little bit about like what his dad did and how the police used like his prior conviction against him.
Wait, what? I was trying to read it.
She was like reading the thing. No, but like what Antron's dad did, because I know you said you wanted to, that was a separate topic.
So I was mad because I don't have kids, and I already know that like I'll give my life for them. And I know that he's messed up and he had all these issues, and I just hope and pray that none of my issues affect me in such a way to where I'm willing to sacrifice my child because of my own jacked up, way of thinking. No. And I think that
I don't care about a job. I don't care about anything.
Yeah. And I mean, like, even Raymond's dad, he was like, well, I'm gonna get fired. Like, I gotta go to work. And
I'll get fired.
I'm fired. Then I'm already fired. Okay. So what y'all finna do? And I understand that it takes a certain level of sophistication.
They knew how serious it was.
I don't give a damn. You at the precinct, you are my child. Like, it could be the hospital, it could be an issue at school. I'm never going to be like, all right, y'all figure this out, I got to go to work. Yeah. Or y'all figure this out, I got to go do fill in the blank with anything. Like, this is my whole child. Yeah. And something he has to know as a minority. Raymond's dad, all of their parents had to have known the consequences that could follow with leaving your child. He knew all too well. So he's thinking, well, if we just cooperate, then it'll go away. So one, his version of cooperating was pinning it on somebody else and lying and just doing whatever they tell him. I don't know what his involvement was, but I guarantee you he has to have some kind of understanding that cooperating with the police don't help you. So that really pissed me off. And it was obvious that he knew it was trifling because he couldn't go home. He couldn't be around him. He couldn't look him in the face. And it was just
he knew.
Ugh. Like I'm sorry, he disgusted me. And I think that it's not Antron's fault that he was born to the parents that he was born to, and we don't pick our parents. Some people say like, oh, I'm so glad my child picked me. Like, whatever. All right, you chose to have a child. Like, you have to make a certain level of commitment. Go ahead. You have to make a certain level of commitment to protecting your child at all costs. So like I said, it could have been at the hospital, it could have been at the school, the police. I don't care. Like, we could have gotten into a car accident and the police be like, I'm gonna take your child home. Oh no, you're not. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not gonna happen. And I feel like he did such a disservice to his child. And some people may feel like, oh, well, he has to let it go and he has to move on. I have a real frustration for people that try to dictate or tell people how they need to react to something. Like, you don't have no business telling somebody how to deal with trauma such as this. These little boys were put through the worst, spent the core of their life, the piece of their life that defines like who they're going to be as a person. They spent it in prison, and I just feel like, how dare
their childhood was so. Whenever I talk about
it, but how dare you say how they should react, how they should be dealing with it now, what they should have done differently. At the end of the day, the only thing that you need to talk about is what everyone else did wrong to them. So they were the victims. The jogger was a victim, but they missed out on finding the person who really did it and protecting everyone else from this monster by being so focused on blaming somebody else.
Yeah. No, when I watch it, I feel like those kids were literally stolen. Like, they were kidnapped off the street by like
the
justice system. They were just, their lives were stolen. They were just,
it was like a legal form of it. Yeah. So like a kid gets kidnapped and is kept in somebody's basement for 10 years, then that person will go to jail and it's, oh my gosh, they were kidnapped. Okay, well the justice system
did that to them.
Yep.
And I know I said I wanted to go back to the victim. I watched a lot of interviews with all these people, but she I just wanted to see what her thoughts were about it, because like she suffered, it was a brutal crime. Like, the rapist who eventually confessed to it, he was a brutal rapist and murderer. He went on after the fact. Not only were these boys victims, but that rapist went on to murder a pregnant woman in her home while her children were in the next room, brutally murder her. And so that woman would be alive today had the police really done their job and done what they were supposed to do and not been so focused on these children. But
And I mean, maybe not. You know, maybe they would have really prosecuted the case and investigated the case the way they're supposed to, and still not have found him. But
I'm convinced they would have found him.
Yeah, I don't think he was that
Because
sophisticated.
they said that
he just walked right away.
He was picked up not too long after that, and they were able to link, you know, that's why he was in prison.
Yeah.
So
he didn't seem sophisticated at all. It was just kind of like, flying underneath the radar.
Yeah.
But if they would have went looking, they probably would have found it, because I don't think he was a needle in a haystack. I think he was just reckless.
I mean, he was walking in that park that day,
covered with blood
and mud.
And then she said that, so you expect us to believe that he's just walking through Central Park with covered in blood? But you expect us to believe that none of these 5 children that you have arrested and assigned to have committed this heinous act, none of them were covered with any blood. You expect us to believe that.
And then so the victim, she suffered. She said that she didn't remember anything. I think she doesn't even remember going out for a jog that night. That's how bad she sustained, like, a brain injury.
Yeah,
so she couldn't remember anything. But in recent interviews, I saw how she was commenting on everything that's going on, and she still kind of, like, is on the side of
they did it.
Kind of, like, she didn't say that they did it, but she was just basically, her statements were, I wish that the state wouldn't have settled this case with the boys. I want them to look further into it. I believe that there was more than one person who raped me. Even though all the evidence, and she said, and I also think the police and the DA treated me very nicely, and I think they did their job. So she's not even willing to acknowledge that they made any mistake. She's saying that there's more than one person who did it, and she said that she wished the state wouldn't have settled the case with them. Now, put all that together, she didn't directly say, I think that they did it. She did say, I don't want anybody...
I'm not convinced that they didn't do it.
Exactly. So she's leaving she's leaving doubt that, like, they're completely innocent. She's playing into that, and that's what really makes me upset about it, because I know she's the victim, I know she's staying the brain, but let's be real. Do you want justice for yourself, or do you want to go along with what these police told you, or do you want to be on a side? Like, at the end of the day, you're the victim. You're the only person. You should be on your side, not the police's side, not the DA's side, not anybody's side. Be on your side. Advocate for yourself. You were victim. Like, somebody attacked you brutally, and so to be like, the police did their job. Maybe they didn't do their job. Like, have a critical, like, she just wants to be, like, play nice.
I feel like, to the same extent, like, she suffered a great trauma, so I'm not going to tell her how to react to it either, because I just really want to keep the finger pointed at the right people, and the prosecutor, the cops, the detectives, the jurors, and even the judge too. Like, it's just unacceptable. And for me to continue to advocate for a justice system that, you know, I gotta stand behind it, but when I see flaws, like, I'm not gonna pretend like it's perfect and things don't need to be changed. And in this sense, like, these people, like, their behavior and what they let happen and what they advocated for, what they pushed for, what they were involved in is unacceptable, and I'm not standing for it. And I just feel like, so, like, when I prep a client for deposition, and I know that maybe they have something in their background that's going to come up in the deposition, and it's going to make them, you know, get defensive and get hot and offended or whatever, and some defense attorneys will play into that and use that to their advantage. And I'll tell them, you know, like, don't let it turn you up, because everybody's there to do a job. So I really feel that, like, each person has to do a job, and some of the jobs I can't do. I can't work for the tobacco companies. I can't do it. I can't represent BP. I cannot. That's something I'm incapable of doing. Even when I was in criminal defense, I couldn't do child molesters. Like, someone accused. I didn't mean to say everybody's, you know, innocent until proven guilty, but I just knew that I could not go tell a child they lying about something like that. So that was where I drew the line. I could represent a murderer, someone accused of murder, you know, and I could represent someone, you know, that was even accused of beating someone to near death, you know, something that's awful. But my line was child molestation and pedophilia. Like, that's just where I couldn't go. But I feel like everybody has a job. They deserve a fair day in court, so they have to do it. But I can't. And I also cannot sit here and be like, oh, well, the prosecutor was just doing her job, because she wasn't.
No,
she went way beyond what her job was. The cops, detectives, and even the jurors, like, the jurors have one job: to say guilty or not guilty based upon a finding of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So you didn't have no reasonable doubt. I just don't believe it. I just think that they were trifling. So, and
then I know we have to wrap it up, but I want to talk lastly about.
You could tell. How long have we been talking? A long time.
Yeah. So I want to talk briefly. Ava saved the last episode for when they get out, and then also for Corey Wise and his experience in adult prison, which to me, prison is like might as well be Mars. Like, to me, it's just like Mars, like in a horror movie. Like, it's just a whole nother world, a whole nother system that none of us are even mentally, emotionally, or physically prepared to even deal with. And so they put a 16-year-old boy in here. Looks like he spent a lot of time. Not only did they have him in Rikers, it looks like they moved him around for like 300 something miles away from his mom, so she couldn't visit him. And he was beat time and time again. Raped. God knows what else. Raped.
Well, he was raped.
Yeah, and then put into solitary confinement for a majority of his time there. So that right there, we know. Like, I heard about.
Well, he asked for the transfer and he asked for solitary, but I feel like no 16-year-old knows how to do prison. Like,
he was threatened. They said you either go to the infirmary or you go to solitary.
Well, the cop gave him like a hint, like, hey, don't do that, because that's where the snitches go. You need to ask for solitary.
Right.
So he did ask for it, but I mean, I thought he handled it so well. Like, I'd probably lose my mind. I'd be like, passed away. Like,
we look at how many like stories we know of the Kalief Browder story, but how many Kalief Browders do we not know of?
Yeah, tons.
You know, tons. And Corey Wise's, and so for him to even be out and standing and mentally, I mean, I've seen interviews. I mean, you never know when people go behind closed doors, but he looks, you know, to be doing well, like in his right mind, doing well, having dealt with something like that. Like, I can't even imagine. My heart, like, I cried through that entire episode.
I know, and he didn't have anybody, so I was like, oh, I wish I knew him. I could have wrote him letters. Like, keep your head up, Corey, it's all good. But I mean, and it actually made me think about those types of, because they have programs where it's like you can write to prisoners that don't have family and stuff, and that made me think like, wow, I just thought that was just, you know, people trying to be mannish and talk to, you know, prisoners, like get you a prison bay or whatever. But no, like, I can really see like how some people probably don't have anybody writing to them.
And then also they talked about, okay. Okay.
I think we should write letters to them.
All right. So
before we wrap it up, though, I do want to ask a tough question.
What?
You were finished with that, though? I thought you were.
And I was just going to mention that he also had a learning disability.
Oh,
which played a part in his confession and just a lot.
Yeah. I don't understand how you can take anyone's confession when they say they beat me and you don't look into it. Like, think about how many people you could just beat them and then they'll eventually say what you want them to say. You got a child. Wait till you get old enough.
Look at the Making a Murderer movie. Like, the whole second season, if you haven't watched it, is about and the Dassey guy, the nephew, who also had a learning disability. They pulled him out of class without his parents. I think he was 16 and did the same exact thing.
It's just, I mean, this is unacceptable. We got to hold people accountable. This stuff needs to be criminal, period. Point blank, period.
But what's the question?
I reached out to a cop. He said he'll let us interview him.
Oh.
And I also met this lady. She's running for a political office. And I'm going to see. She don't know it yet, but she's going to be on the podcast. And she, you know, marched for Martin Luther King.
Wow.
And, so I want to have interviews with them on other issues, but like bring this up and just get their thoughts about this, because but so my question is the timing of all of this. Do y'all think that
yes,
that this is driven politically as well? Like, do you think that there's an agenda? I know some people think that, because they think everything that's racially driven
something like that
is, you know, well, they're just doing this because they want you to be mad, and
we should be mad.
I don't really. Okay, well, if that's what you want, then hey, success, okay? Because this stuff pisses me off. So I'm not going to not be mad just because I think you want me to be mad. I'm going to make you stop doing shit that pisses me off. Oh, I didn't mean to curse. I just was like, did I just say shit? Yeah, I said shit. But
I don't care if it's politically, I don't know. We need to vote based on last election. People need to be motivated to vote. So if this is
the meeting,
getting people riled up in order to vote, whatever.
The meeting I had today, that I was rushing back from was with Brenda Snipes, and she was the Secretary of Elections for Broward County. Which I didn't even realize Broward County is number 2.
She really got it.
Number 2 in the state as far as like the electoral counties.
Yeah.
Number 15 in the nation. Like, whoa, like over 1 million voters. That's crazy.
So it was a huge deal last election.
It was such a huge deal. But she's a great person, like super dope. But one of the things I talked to her about was like, how do we get the community back on track with voting? Because so many people are just like, it doesn't matter, and it's not going to make a difference. So I wonder, for the people that think that this is politically driven, like, what is it driven towards? It wants us to be mad? Because I don't know if they really understand who wants us to be mad. We want our own community to be mad, or they want us to be mad. Like, I don't get what is the political draw to it, and I just wasn't sure how to Google that. But I know that it's there. And then when they put out all the videos with police shootings, like, is it the police that are shooting our brothers, husbands, sons that want us to be mad? Are their bosses telling them to shoot us, and then videos get posted to make what is the political drive? Is one of the questions I have. You think people are saying it? Because you put it on that thingy, so it's not like scrolling. But that's a question that I have. Yeah. Even if it's like later, like what is? Oh,
what's the comments? Oh, okay. Here we go. So, Facebook, come on. So, okay, we're going to go back through some of our comments. Summer said, hi, love this.
Hey, Summer.
She said, no, it's on my list for the weekend. Definitely watch it. I think this message is so important. So many people watch documentaries like this and feel passionate, but then fail the system when it comes time to do their part to prevent this type of injustice. Very good point.
Summer is a public defender. She's one of the best criminal defense public defender attorneys I know, like, period. She advocates, she goes hard, like, she's a dope attorney, a dope person.
Yes.
So thank you for that. When you watch it, like, holler at us. Maybe we could do we're all in the South Florida area, but these schedules.
Yeah.
So maybe we could do like a little 3-way video.
We can add people onto our live.
Oh, do like another like a follow-up discussion. Yeah, because I really want people to tell me what is the political push, draw. Like, I don't understand that aspect of it, because I don't know. Like, and then it's 2019, so elections are next year.
Yeah.
Is that close enough to want? I don't know. And then, did it fail? Because I don't really feel like people are turning up and they're in uproar because of this video, because I think a lot of people are looking at it like, this happens, this has been happening. What that mean?
Live connection, low network.
Oh.
I think it's not live
AT&T.
anymore. But Chris, my husband, also said, I was wrongfully arrested and held at gunpoint by police 3 times, age 13, 15, and 21. Are you guys opening up for Q&A? Yes, if you guys have any questions, definitely write your questions down. We would be happy to answer them. Or if you just have a comment, just comment. How did you feel when you watched it? What were your thoughts, questions, whatever it is? Let us know. We're here. Any more comments? Let's see. But yeah, back to the point. My husband and I talk about it all the time, how he, like, this could have easily been him. Let's see.
I can read it from here. No, I can't.
Is there no sound? Hey, can you guys hear us? Let us know.
Testing.
Can you hear us? We're open for Q&A. And so just basically, this could have easily been him. Like, he said police tried to pick him up once when he was, I think, 13, 14, for something that a neighbor accused him of doing, like mutilating a dog, and the police tried to pick him up without his parent.
What?
And his cousin happened to live across the street from him. So when when she saw the police trying to pick him up, she said, no. His mom is right in there. You need to go talk to his mom. You're not taking him without a parent.
Mm-mm.
And luckily he was saved from that. Yay! Hey.
Okay, so we're about to post this video from Facebook as well.
Yes.
But why won't anybody tell me about this political
agenda? Yes. Like, do you think that there's a political agenda behind this movie, the timing, anything like. I don't. I'm not a conspiracy theory type of person.
I kind of am. Like, well, my dad be saying that I am, but I do. I'm in line with like some of the conspiracy theories or that way of thinking sometimes, and I think everything is just like applied to something, like fill in the blank. But in this case, like I don't see it. So I'm not really interested in like who does and who doesn't. For the people that do, what is the push? Like I'm not making that connection.
Yeah, and I really want to know like So after watching this, I think Summer talked about it. Like people watch documentaries like this and get really fired up about it, but then like it kind of goes out. To me, this is something that I'm like, I don't want this to go out, because at the end of the day, I'm raising a young black male, and this affects me like directly. I mean, I'm gonna give him the best life I can give him, and I truly believe based on my faith, that he's going to live a long, prosperous life with nothing like dealing with nothing like that. But at the end of the day, I don't care. Like, I want to be a part of the solution and the answer when it comes to. I think the statistics are like 1 in 3 black males will spend time in jail. That's crazy to me. Like 1 in 3. One of my nephews had a birthday party at my house the other day. There were 10-year-old boys, and they were all playing. And part of me, I just kept seeing like a group of 10-year-old boys, and like the fact that how the system is just built against them. And like 1 in 3 black males.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I really can't, because this has been going on for so long. I don't know. I wonder, like, who would know the statistics? Because I really don't know if it's getting better or worse or staying the same. And even if it's getting better, it's not getting better enough to where it's noticeable. But with regard to the part about while everyone's all heated up, I've been saying that I think that our generation is missing, like, real leadership. So we need, like, an MLK. Like, we need that advocate, because a lot of us...
That's true.
Our generation is very like selfish, and they're focused on like money, and we're the fast food nation, so it's like we want it right now, like let's get it right now. But a lot of us are very passionate, and like we're not our ancestors, is our thing. So like you come at us like that, we're not going to be like, okay, yes, whatever makes it easy. Like we're we go. So I think that we're missing like direction, because even me, like, there's sometimes I'd be like, this has to stop, and I'm gonna have a workshop on this and tell people how to interact with police, and this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
But then I'm kind of like, what if I tell them wrong and then something happened? It's just there's so much uncertainty with me, and then even people that might not even know, like, had the thought to do a workshop. I think some of those people are like, okay, but like, what do we do?
Yeah,
exactly. So I really think we need like someone to stand up. And I've been saying this for like the last 2 or 3 years. I feel like it's coming, and I don't know who she or he is, but I feel like they're going to be great. And then everything that's building up in us individually, they're going to take that, and it's just going to like explode, and we're really going to kick it. Because like when the recent police or school shooting happened, and all those kids band together, and they had like the march, and they change legislation, and they really got it moving. Like, I think it's in us, and every generation they're getting better and better, but I think we just need direction. We need to figure out ways to do it. So
yeah. And I think one easy way, until that person shows up, one easy way to
those people
support prison reform is support companies and people that have the money to fight it. And so
to fight prison reform.
Hi, Lauren. She said, I'm jumping in late. I'll have to check this documentary out. Hi, Lisa. My cousin Lisa is watching. One company that I know, one big company that I know that is fighting for prison reform and for justice is Ben & Jerry's. And that's easy to support.
Yeah, I love them.
Go buy some ice cream.
Yeah. And I mean, but you got to stop supporting the ones that are. And a lot of times they do a really good job about hiding it. So, and people say like, oh, you just follow the masses because like when you boycott a certain company. No, it's because a lot of them hide it so well that when we find out, like, if we would have known about it, we wouldn't have been supporting it. So then when we find out, of course, we're going to be like...
And Summer says, let me just read all of it. Summer says, check out Bryan Stevenson's work. He is one of the top TED Talk. He has one of the top TED Talks and wrote Just Mercy. He is such an amazing advocate and has a wealth of knowledge on the issues in America today that we face. So
let's do it.
Bryan Stevenson. I'll definitely check that out.
For sure. Thanks, Summer.
Thank you.
All right, so let's wrap this up. It's 5 o'clock.
Yes, but we'll continue the conversation.
Did you do something else?
I don't know. I think that's it. Thank you guys for all joining us. Continue. Let the questions continue to come in. Message us on the post. If you're shy, you can direct message us, private message us. And when we pick this conversation up again, when we have our guests, we'll definitely try and answer your questions. And we definitely want to have more guests. So if you want to be a guest, also write us.
Yeah, Summer. So I really want you to join in on this, especially since you kind of join in on the topic a little bit, and then you're going to go and watch the docuseries. So once you watch it, just hit one of us up and let us know when a good day would be, preferably before next Wednesday, because I'm going out of town. Well, no, we're doing it electronic, so like video. So whenever, girl, just holla at us. Are we done?
Yes, we're done. Thank you guys for joining us for our first
live
broadcast. Yeah, it's fun,
we can do this all the time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we'd be like, okay, we're gonna overlap the audio, and
for
us to not have like any editing to do of the actual like video, it turns into like a whole chore.
Praise the Lord,
child.
All right.
Oh, I forgot this is on.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Hi, guys on Instagram. That's it. That's all for us.
That's
all right. Until next time. See you guys.
Bye.